Welcome, dear viewers and dear listeners. I am Lex, and I am joined here today by Lando. Lando, introduce yourself to the people.
Yeah, hello, everyone. My name's Lando. I work with Player Allies. I do the tech, but I also play in the games. So you should see in one of my boys here. This is Gord. So it's a holdover. Actually, there's a blank wall behind me, so I figured, they can see one of my characters. It's going to be better than just a boring wall. So
I forgot for a second that I had a mannequin behind me, and then I moved and I saw it and I was like, oh, speaking of things behind you.
There you go.
Yeah. So what got you involved? Well, first of all, what got you involved with D&D and stuff like that?
Yeah, in terms of D&D, I'm trying to think of exactly how I got introduced to it, but I actually played with my brother and my family actually initially, and it kind of petered off. We probably did 3 or 4 sessions. We bought the books, and we've always been into nerd kind of stuff, and really it was just the natural transition from things we played things like Munchkin and other more complicated kind of board games like Mage Knight and those kind of things. And we started playing D&D, and we quickly learned that it takes a lot of time, and so I think my brother got burned out initially,
sure,
because he was coming in not having played it at all and trying to DM. And so we kind of had a quick stint of maybe 3 sessions in a month or something. We'd try to do once a week. Yeah. We were all living in the same house, so it was
much easier to
fairly easy.
Yeah,
totally. And so I was probably 2 years after that. So it was kind of a thing. He kind of burned out. We didn't really seek out anyone else to play with. Mm-hmm. And then he was like, I'm in a better place now. I want to run these games. Let's get some people that we know and get them all together. So that was probably 3 months that we did it. And this was back in 2019, probably.
Okay.
God. And then he actually
2019 feels like 5 years.
Oh yeah, no, it's
ridiculous. It's 2020 was so long, and then 2021 was so short. We're almost
right. It's
out
crazy.
of it.
Totally crazy. But
yes, continue. Sorry.
Yeah. No. It's 100%. Essentially, he was like, yeah, I'll do it. We did it for 3 months. He actually ended up going into rehab for alcoholism, and thankfully now is significantly better. Initially, I was going to take over DMing, and so I spent probably 3 or 4 months just listening to all the podcasts about the lore of the world. I was like, I'm not going to put a race in the world that I'm creating until I at least know what the base lore of the creatures are and stuff, because I knew basically nothing. So I became a student of the game. I learned all about the classes. I learned all about everything, and just obsessed over it. And then realized, oh, I'm way more of a planner, and I am not good at improvising in a way. And so I loved planning for the sessions, but actually running the sessions stressed me out and just gave me complete anxiety. And I'm like, it's just not for me.
Yeah, because we've talked about, I've done a couple of DM roundtables for Let's Talk About It. And one of the things that we talked about when we were talking about world building and session planning and things like that is you have to be comfortable throwing all of that out of the window.
Totally.
Because
and I'm not. That's the whole point. I have this idea of this epic story, and I'm gonna put all these things together. And then at the end of the session, I'm like, I feel like the execution just didn't live up to the hype I had in my head, and I couldn't get over that. And so essentially, I kind of lived along. We did a couple sessions, and then this was actually in March of 2020, and COVID hit, and we stopped meeting in person. And I'm like, yeah, I could probably figure out how to do it online, but this is not my thing. So I didn't play again until it would have been December of 2020. And that's where we went into, I don't know how much the channel knows about the origin. Okay, yeah. So the origin of Planar Allies is kind of a crazy story. I'll give you the abridged version. I'm more than happy to talk about the long version. Essentially, we joined this paid group on a Discord that had 3 or 4 games a week running in this persistent world. We had 3 different characters, and I was like working like in the mornings. I sold beef at farmers markets for like the whole pandemic.
So you know the answer to the age-old question: where's the beef?
Oh yeah, it's at Prather Ranch in California. It's yeah. Anyway, without getting into that, but I essentially had time to, because I basically just worked on the weekends, and then one other time I basically had time to play 3 or 4 games a week during the day, and it was awesome. The people that we play with were really, really cool, and Kyle was actually one of them. He actually joined like a day after me. We hadn't even played yet, so he was in the first session I ever played in at that group. There was like a handful of others, but we started playing. We really liked each other, but the management, there was like this off kind of vibe, and we were kind of like, oh, like, you know, and we liked playing with each other, so we kind of let it go for like 2 weeks, and then eventually one of the guys invited us to a Discord server. And we all jumped in the Discord server, and we had this long conversation where we put all the pieces together, all of our little experiences kind of combined into kind of this gross picture of this person.
And like, that's a thing. That's an issue. Like, there's a lot of that happens in these communities. Like, I didn't start playing like, I wanted to play D&D for a really long time. Like, I've always been into fantasy. I've always been into like RPGs and stuff like that. It took me a long time to start gaming and tabletopping, because growing up very obviously queer, they didn't want me in those spaces. But like, that is what people like that do. And like, I've run into that. I've been a member of several like long form RP Discord servers and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, well, this person said this thing or that thing, and I didn't really like it, but I like playing with everybody else so much, and the chemistry is good. But then when you all get together and you compare notes, it's like, oh,
especially if it's the leadership.
Yeah.
And so there was just a lot of like, I won't get into all of it, but the person, they're pretty gross. And so we essentially were like, because that guy's goal was to get people together that wanted to stream, wanted to like make this a career and turn it into that. And that was the whole goal. And we're like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I'd love to play D&D. And we're like, we basically can do it better on our own. So we left and we basically did our own thing. And we started streaming in earnest. This was in January. And we basically took time to really like get all the stuff together. And then we didn't start streaming really until probably like June, maybe, of 2021.
Oh wow!
Like, and you can actually go back on YouTube, and I cringe because I'm the tech guy. Just cringe at all the mistakes. Cringe at what the layout looks like. I'm like, this looks awful. I'm never looking at this again. And slowly, you know, as any small business, slowly the people that joined slowly started dropping off because it's work, and you know they didn't have the vision in their head that they wanted fast enough. And so really, out of the original people, I think there was like 9 of us. For different reasons, it's just me, Kyle, and we have another guy that doesn't participate in the business aspect but does play as a player. So there's only 3 of us. So we're the last holdouts, but that's the origin of Planar Allies. Is it was kind of this group that just came together, liked playing with each other, and left because of a really gross kind of person running it. So, and now I've been playing in the campaign. We're like, I want to say probably 35 episodes. 35
no,
episodes.
You're good.
You were. This is the longest campaign I've ever played in. The longest I've ever played D&D. And so, but because I'm a student in the game and because I love D&D, I love the mechanics of it. And that's the thing with Kyle is Kyle loves the role play. And so I've had to like adjust how I think about the game because like, although I don't agree 100% with how extreme he gets sometimes, I recognize my own imbalance naturally. And so I'm kind of like coming into like the middle of it in terms of like, okay, yes, I like my characters to be good. Like, I mean, again, I think that's partly because I haven't played that much. I'm sure that like after years, I'll be like, yeah, it'd be fun to make a character that just sucks at everything. But for now, because I've lived an experience, I'd like to have good characters. So it's a balance. It's a really good balance. And I love Kyle for it. I love him for it.
Well, and I will say that I think even when you make a build, like that's one of the things about a game like D&D, D&D being one of the tabletops that's much more mechanics heavy.
Yeah.
Like you know, there's tons of systems out there, and you know, I think I've said it before, but like play around, see what if you're not super into the maths, try a system like World of Darkness. World of Darkness is all D6s, and instead of having one stat and a bonus, you have your skills and your attributes, and you have different amounts of dots in those. And so like if you're trying to do something, your GM would be like, okay, well, you're going to use your persuasion and your intimidate for that. And so you would, if you have 2 dots in persuasion and 3 dots in intimidate, then you would have a 5 dice in your pool that you then roll, and you're like, okay, how many successes, how many failures, that determines it. Whereas with like D&D, you have to worry about, is this character, you know, immune to this? Are they
there's a lot of factors.
There's a lot that stacks on top of each other, and it takes a lot of patience. And even if you have built a character that's really good at things, a shitty roll is a shitty roll.
100%. 100%. Totally. And there's some randomness to it. But I think initially I approached D&D like a chess game, like something that could be calculated and something that could be won, you know, and I'm growing in that. I think there's still moments and there's still like times where that's the mindset. Because I think part of it is I like to figure out like the roots of it and exploit the roots of it. And, you know, that to me is fun.
Yeah.
But there's a time and place for that. And I think one thing I really appreciate about Kyle's DMing style is that it forces me to think not only about like the character itself, but like the character on the sheet, but the character itself. And thinking about like, okay, what is the character's motivation for things? And, you know, part of it's like, okay, what can I do with my character to get the result I want? Sometimes it's that, but also it's like, what can I do with my character to make the story interesting? Because I think one of the things too, sorry, again, I also just disclaimer, I have ADHD, so my brain works very differently. And so I like typically have thoughts and I jump around. So, you know, intimately familiar. I think like the 3rd episode of my podcast is me, Emily, and our friend Sarah just talking about our ADHD and multiple other mental illnesses. Like, but yeah, like it is one of those things where like I have been in situations in game where I'm like, I want to do this thing, like this thing would be the best thing for all of us, but my character would not have the presence of mind 100%
doing this, and I can't in good conscience do it.
And before playing with Kyle, I would have been like, no, mechanically this is the best, this is what we're doing. And like it's funny because there was a couple sessions ago, like something devastating happened to my character, like emotionally, and I skipped my entire turn. I'm like, no, he's reeling from this. Like, he's not gonna take his turn. I would have never ever done that before. Like that would have been like that would have been so painful to do as someone that like tends to like to optimize. Yeah. And so, but I'm like, that just makes sense in the story. I think the other thing that I think is really cool about Planar Allies is that, and again, unlike a lot of streams that I've seen, we play D&D in a way that not only like is different than how you play it around like a table with your friends. We play in a way there where we're mindful of the fact that people are watching us and it's a performance. And so is Kyle in terms of how he runs the story. And so, you know, there's some things you would do in a game where you're playing around the table with your friends that would be totally fine. You could take however long you want to figure out the thing, like spend 45 minutes trying to plan how to get into the castle or whatever. But because we have the people watching us, we don't have that luxury. So it's like a mindset change that we've done, and it informs how we play the game. And I think a way that's really interesting to play, but also interesting to watch. So it's like, you tend to be like, okay, what can I do that's super epic? That's going to surprise everybody, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I love thinking of those kind of things. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I like, it's also like, there is definitely a difference between like playing with your friends and playing like for a stream and things like that, because like, when you're just playing with your friends, dropping out of character to actually talk about and strategize what we're going to do is something that happens a little bit more frequently than when you're in game for people to watch. Now we have to like do the strategy as our characters having this discussion, and it's very different because like, I think we all tend to make characters that we identify with on some level, because how else are we going to play them? But I also I like to make characters that challenge me, and that like, because that's one of the things that I like about acting as well. One of the million things that I do. But that's one of the things that I like about acting is I like taking roles that challenge me and playing characters and inhabiting a space that, I can take something away from at the end of the day.
Yeah. Actually, no. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, now that you mentioned it, it's actually Kyle. One of the things he encouraged me to do is, so this is my first character, Gorf. He's a barbarian, and barbarian, but he's also Totem of the Bear barbarian. It's a little on the nose, but it's great. I love him. He basically is like a himbo, and I love him so much. He's like, I want to protect everybody. It's like, but he's kind of goofy, kind of like not the smartest, which I love playing that up. I think that's so fun to just be like the kind of like comic relief, but when it's time to like throw down and beat the crap out of monsters, he's there. So I
love the, like, when somebody plays like a character with like low intelligence, but it makes for a great opportunity to show up. Like if they ever get like really high on an insight roll or anything like that, it's so incredible for everybody at the table in character to look at your character relaying all this incredible insight and just be like,
oh, okay, where'd that come from?
Right.
It's fun. I think the thing too, that makes Gorf really real to me is that, because I'm also running the streams while I'm playing, oftentimes I can get distracted and I miss things to happen, which is perfect for Gorf because like, unless it's really relevant to him or interesting to him, just like me, I don't often pay attention. So it's hilarious where Kyle will be doing this lore exposition kind of thing. And I'm like, okay, I actually have to do some things on the back end, blah, blah, blah. And then I miss it. And I'm like, it doesn't matter because Gorf would have missed it too. So it's actually like, my ADHD has really informed my role playing Gorf because you're like, oh, I didn't hear that, like, kind of thing, like I didn't know we were doing that. Right. And then on the opposite end, I play a Drow wild magic sorcerer, which was basically built so that I could have significantly less control of my character than I was comfortable with, because I very much liked that, having control. It's kind of like, you should make a wild magic sorcerer. I'm like,
Wild magic is also fun because yes, there is
100%.
For people who don't know wild magic, for people who are new to D&D or just have never like played with that mechanic, wild magic sorcerers are characters who like they use their magic and then you have to roll like after you use magic and things like that, you have to roll a wild magic die to see if you maintain control. And if you roll on, and you have to roll better each time because like the wild magic is building up inside of them. And so
that's a cool mechanic. I actually don't think we have that.
Oh, y'all didn't do it that way? Oh,
no.
That's the way that I played when I played.
What we do is we actually, I think rules is written it's you roll a d20. If you roll, I think it's a 20. You roll on the 100 table and something happens. Mm-hmm. We actually made it so that that's like a 5% chance anytime you cast a leveled spell. We actually made it a 10% chance. So if I roll a nat 1 or a 20, if you roll a nat 1, I roll twice. Kyle gets to pick. If I roll a nat 20 and I roll twice, I get to pick. So, even though it's a 10% chance every time, I think it's only happened maybe 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
But when it does, it's like, ooh.
And there's some really dope stuff on the magic table, on the wild magic table. There's some crazy stuff on the wild magic table. But that's another thing that I love about D&D is that like, there's rules as written play, but there's so much homebrew that happens. And I think it's incredibly important to have that, especially when it comes to the role play and world building aspect of it, because there's so much within Wizards of the Coast and just the lore as written that's honestly inherently pretty bad when in terms of like representation and race relations and things like that. And it happens across tabletop RPGs a lot. Like I've talked about it in the past. I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast, but when we look at the way a lot of tabletops do their races who have tribalism, like there's a lot of anti-indigenous sentiment kind of cooked into that. A lot of people who have these tribal structures are viewed as more animalistic, more savage. Like and sometimes it gets into the whole like magical Indian sort of trope of it all. And so it's really important that like, we understand how the game works so that we can change it in ways that make it better for the 100%. People who are at our table.
That's why it took 3 months to just like read all the lore so that I could be like, okay, do I like this? No. Okay. And then the mechanics too. I think the mechanics are really important to be like, okay, they're a skeleton and you can adjust it as you want because it's a game that is for you and you should design it the way that you want to design it. And if you want it to be extra crazy, do the extra crazy things. If you want it to be more low key and you want to really follow the rules, great. Just make sure everyone's on board that's playing. That's the main thing.
And that's the thing is like, there has to be this kind of like, there has to be a conversation between the players and their GM.
Absolutely.
And because it's not a I'm the GM. Oh, I made this world and you're just coming in here to play in it. You have to do what I say and follow my shit. Like, no, you're here to create a cooperative experience. You're here to tell a story together. And like, yes, you put a whole bunch of work and love into this world. And absolutely your players need to respect the amount of work that you put into it. And you need to know that you have like cohesive playing styles, but also like, if you have, a player who's constantly getting shot down and you're constantly just like, no, they're not going to want to fucking play. So it's important to have these conversations. And I think that's, a big part of, what Play Nerd Allies does. I think it's a big part of what Novi does. Like we want it to be a cooperative experience with the people that are playing and also the people that are watching. Like we don't want
exactly too. We
don't want to alienate anybody because,
totally.
People have been doing that for long enough.
Right.
Why Fig is starting up, why Play Nerd Allies started up. And I'm super excited to see, what this partnership brings and how we all get to know each other and play with each other.
Yeah, I'm still if you had asked me in like March of like 2021, like where I thought this would be at the end of the year, this is not at all. I'd be like, I mean, we'd be still going, but we've been so blessed by the support of the community. We've been so blessed by just the response of everyone, and we're so excited to see where not only the Novi partnership goes, but just like tabletops in general. We're convinced that come February, when the Netflix or the Amazon show comes out for Critical Role, that's going to be a huge gateway for people. I think we're on the trajectory to just have tabletop RPGs just explode. And I think I read somewhere that 2020 was the best year that Wizards of the Coast have ever had.
Oh,
which is just indicative of just people like adding more hobbies, because people are like, oh, I've worked my whole life and I don't really have things to do. And people like are reevaluating their life because of COVID.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things is, I mean, I did it. I mean, I was like, oh, I want to make this a thing.
Yeah, you know? No, like COVID has been awful, and like it's been a hellscape for sure, but there's definitely something to be said for this kind of era of self-exploration that's happened, not only in people opening self up to learning new skills and finding new hobbies, but also learning things about themselves. Like you've had a bunch of people, you know, reevaluating because all that performance was stripped away. So you had a bunch of people reevaluating what their relationship is to their gender, what their relationship is to their sexuality, what their relationship is to their presentation. And so, like, you know, if there is anything good to come out of COVID, it's that I think it's allowed a lot of people to become more themselves. And that's super exciting to see. It's also, you know, just by virtue of some of the stuff that we went through while we were in quarantine, we have learned a lot about what the general consensus of the public is. And like, we've learned that what a lot of people have learned that what we've been saying for a long time, like, bigots are a minority, they're just a very vocal one. We learned that that's true. Like, you know, overwhelmingly people came out and supported those marches. People voted in ways that showed that they are over that shit. And it was very important to, you know, me as, you know, someone who sits at the intersection of a couple of different intersectionalities, that we see that we have allies out there. And I'm glad that, you know, I'm getting to meet some through Novi and some just through the internet. And it was super dope. And I'm super stoked to continue to get to know you and maybe to get to play with you in the future.
Yeah, honestly, we have a revolving cast with at least for right now, Hunter's Harvest, which is our kind of more like episodic kind of thing. We do like 3 to 4 adventures a stream. But I love playing with new people in that. So yeah, I mean, we got space. You know, just saying. Hey. Or if people want to invite me to come play with them, I'm always glad to play D&D.
Listen,
so it's probably my favorite thing to do, just across the board. You're like, you can do anything you wanted. It'd be play D&D. Anything else is second to D&D.
You know, if I could do anything with my time, it would probably be playing games like either D&D or the new game that I had just received the PDF for recently, and we'll be getting the physical book soon, Coyote and Crow, which I'm super excited.
Heard of that. I mean, briefly, but that sounds. I'm also down to play tons of because D&D is the only one I've ever played.
Oh,
I haven't played any of the other ones, but I'd be like, I love tabletops. They're great.
Thoughts. So. I'm thinking thoughts, and I will hold on to those thoughts, and I will let you guys get back to the game. Thank you so much for joining me, Lando.
Well, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Let everybody know where they can find you. Give us your plugs. What's your socials,
so I'm a part of Planet Allies. We're here at on Twitch every Tuesday, Wednesday, and then sometimes we have things running on Thursdays. But we have persistent campaigns. So yeah, just Planet Allies at twitch.tv, I think it is. And then our Twitter handle is Allies Nerd if you want to follow us too. I think it's that's my Twitter. If you want to follow it, I basically just repost all of our Planet Allies stuff. But that's our Twitch there too. So, and if you want to follow Planet Allies, it's Allies Nerd.
Salutations, or as my ancestors would say, Ya'ata'e. Ya'ata'e being the Dene word for hello, although actually technically it means all is good with the earth.
Oh, that's so nice.
Isn't it? It's beautiful, although not quite how the world is feeling right now.
Yes, the earth is actually very unwell, exceedingly unwell.
But welcome back, guys. Thank you for joining us again in one of our series of little mini Lex Talk About It interviews. I'm so excited to be interviewing Amber, one of our newest members of the Novi team. Amber, would you introduce yourself and let us know what it is you do?
What don't I do? First, let me make sure that I have the right microphone set. Yes, I do. Hi, everybody. I'm Amber, also known as the Space Jamber on Twitter and Twitch and everywhere you can find stuff. I call myself the TTRPG Swiss Army knife because I literally do everything. I'm an editor. I'm a TTRPG editor, writer, content strategist for Novi, social media, everything. What the fuck don't I do? I just do it. So yeah, thank you so much to Lex for having me on today and Novi for bringing me onto the team. And I don't know, let's fucking go.
Let's talk about it, baby. No, but yeah. So, like, first of all, so you're a content strategist, but also you have your own stream where you host and you talk about, effective work and study habits and how to do that, within your own divergent mind. And as somebody with ADHD and a whole host of other things, like, that's super important. Like, let's talk about that. Like, how did you, it's one thing to find these tools for yourself and to figure out what works for yourself, but then to, take it on yourself to be an educator and be like, no, like, I've got your back. Like, how did you come to the decision of this is something that I can do? And this is something that I feel, comfortable opening myself up to?
That's actually a really great question. And it's one of those things where, like, during my day job, sorry, I'm also making sure that I'm donating to our cause today because that's what this is.
Yes.
So I, like, in my day job, it had a lot of free time, and I found that I was just not being productive with my time. And that's, when you're neurodivergent and wanting to prove that, okay, you can succeed. I mean, thanks corporate America, but like prove that you can succeed in like a standard job, like you have to basically bullshit ways to prove that you are worthy and, all of that. So some of the things I gleaned while, like in that situation was like realizing that there were like study with me streams that, people recorded and put on YouTube or whatever, where they're like, they have like the sound of their keyboard clacking or like, yeah. Oh my God. Well, it's part of the reason why I got a clacky keyboard, but, or like, just the sounds of like the paper rustling and everything. And just like sounds of productivity, like helped me be productive. And they put themselves like on timers too, so that they could work in sprints and then take a break. So I realized like those kind of streams helped me develop the structure I needed to be able to like perform in my job and, be able to, provide for me and my husband and my cat. So, and then I noticed that there was like nothing like that for the TTRPG community, like it exists for like Gen Zers who need people to study with and like, but for the TTRPG community, it didn't exist. So that's where I was like, fuck it. This is something that's working for me professionally. And I also have a fuck ton of other projects that I'm working on that I feel like everybody needs a little bit of accountability. So yeah, that's why I started the TTRPG study hall. It's on Tuesday nights on my stream, twitch.tv/the Space Jammer. And yeah, it's I just had my friend Lexi, Black Girl Mage, on with me on Tuesday night, and she did her world building for her D&D campaign, and I worked on building characters for a game I ran and edited a supplement for a client, and it was, it's been great. It's been so wonderful. Sorry, I can talk forever about this. It's
no,
just so
you're
nice.
good. And like, and so specifically the term for like what that is that, you know, you're doing on your streams and what we use a lot of the time, it's called body doubling. It's a technique that a lot of ADHD people use and people with other neurodivergencies use. It's similar to cooperative play, which you see with autistic children in play therapy. Is, you know, they will be playing and you will be playing beside them, and they get to, you know, exist in their own rules, but also have that socialization aspect and talk to you about how they're playing. It's the same with work. Like, you know, me being, you know, disgustingly ADHD, you know, working by myself becomes overwhelming. Researching by myself becomes overwhelming. And people, you know, all the time are like, how do you know so much? And it's because, like, when I go to research something, I don't stop when I have that answer. I then go in and read all of the annotated notes.
It's all so interesting.
Yes. And so then, you know, I'm, you know, 2 hours into research that has nothing to do with what I'm supposed to be working on. And so having somebody there that like is working while I'm working, even if we're working on opposite things, and like we have that check-in of like, hey, how is that going? And it's like, that helps me refocus, like, oh shit, I completely lost the thread.
Yes. Oh my God. It's like the thing I miss the most from, like, I mean, I've been working remote since 2018. And so like, that's the thing I miss the most from working in an office, is like being able to, like, as much as I don't like existing in spaces with other people, it's almost like that, like, because I have somebody there that can kind of hold me accountable. Like, yeah, that's something I miss. And also it's like that feel of like when you do all night study sessions, like in your college library, and you're like, all right, we all are working on separate papers, but let's bitch about our papers together. Like, yeah.
It's, and like a similar thing in, you know, tabletop. Like, I personally have not DM'd for Dungeons and Dragons because I find it far too overwhelming.
It's a lot. It's so much.
Like if I were to DM using like a Dungeons and Dragons world and those mechanics, I would feel most comfortable doing a heist and things of that nature, because that's what would, I wouldn't have to, number one, have 80, you know, different combatants that I have to have all of the stats for and go here and here and there and there. Because also keeping up with that kind of action economy is super hard as well. Because at the end of the day, it is a game, and you want everybody to be able to play and everybody to feel like they got to do really cool stuff. Which is something I envy when I watch dungeon masters like Brennan Lee Mulligan or Matthew Mercer, Abria Iyengar. Like,
yes,
they have these incredible brains, and they're like, Brennan Lee Mulligan specifically, I have a lot of love for him to watch the way he interacts with his players and the way that he knows where to stop that interaction and move to another. And like, you know, if we have the party split, like where to cut and what scenes to do, and like how to really get the best out of his players and like have his players have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there are games like that. There are games that I run that are specifically designed to be one shots. And I think also it's because of my brain, I can't handle long-term things like that. Mm-hmm. But, on my channel, I run, I'll run games that are designed to be one and done, or like they're GM-less, so that everybody has an opportunity to like contribute to the game in some way or be in that driver's seat,
That's cool.
Yeah. And because it's,
I like that.
Yeah. Lex, if you want to be on, if you ever want to play a game, I do one every other Thursday.
Okay.
But the next one I'm putting, yes, the next one I'm doing is, so I have someone running, what is it? Roots and Flowers, which is like a hack of Lasers and Feelings. He's running that on the 30th. And then And then I'm doing Visigoths versus Molgoths on the 20th of January. But I'm also wanting to put together, oh my God, Lexi, when she was on my stream the other day. I'm sorry?
I'm still screaming about Molgoths. You took me all the way out with that.
Visigoths versus Molgoths is my favorite tabletop game. Oh my God, it's incredible. It is hold on, let me find the snake lesbian game really quickly, which is also another phrase.
Incredible. So many sound bites. I'm loving it.
Lexi told me about this game called A Cozy Den that I really want to run with her next year. And it's literally players role play as lesbian snakes who all have different needs in their den and various ways of approaching these needs, from cuddling to napping to wrestling. Lesbian snakes are half snake, half human, all lesbian. So like,
I love it.
And it's a GM-less game. So it's situation where everybody has the driver's seat. So if you want in, Lex, I got you.
That sounds super fun and keeps in theme with I have appeared I guess spotted on a holiday special one shot that took like 3 episodes. I believe I did that with Legends of Lanamora, where I played a Yuan-Ti. That I love snake people. I have a trend of like playing like Yuan-Ti, Naga. Like I love kind of the richness that you have there.
Yeah. And again, I never thought the phrase "I want to play a snake lesbian TTRPG" would leave my mouth, but here we are.
I love it.
Anything can happen in post-pandemic Earth. So
yeah. No, genuinely. There's so many things that I want out of tabletop, and that's one of the beautiful things about it to me too, is like I talked a little bit with Lando about home brewing. Like that's the thing, is like, you know, if you are familiar with the mechanics and you don't like the lore as is, say fuck it. And you know, yeah, I like the world, but I don't like the way this race is treated. We're gonna give that race an overhaul in my world, and
yeah,
you get to
exactly
kind of make the world that you and your friends want to live in for, you know,
for sure.
2 hours.
For sure. I mean, like that's the thing about homebrewing too. I mean, like literally the tabletop games are meant to be your escape from whatever bullshit that you're experiencing in the real world. And so if you're coming across a game that like has a moment that is like, nope, this hits way too close to home, fuck this, nothing says you can't say fuck this and change it. So yeah, absolutely. Like that's why this whole hullabaloo with like Wizards of the Coast, like shut the fuck up, get the fuck out of here, stop being from the 1970s. But
girl, you know, like it is insane to me that. So first of all, like queer people and, you know, people of color, and, you know, disabled people, like marginalized people need escape more than probably any other person. And for fucking Gygax Jr. to sit there and be like, you're ruining my game, my daddy made this, meh, meh, meh. Like, fuck you. It's not like nobody is forcing you to play at a table where people actually care about other people. So why don't you sit in your little corner, wear your little hood, and do what you want to do?
I mean, I can wear my hood too, but it's purple and it's meant to be cool, but that's fine.
You know, some people have really cool assassin hoodies and other people have sheets that they cut holes in. But yeah, it's ridiculous to me that people seeking safety and enjoyment is turned into an attack by these people. But you know, when you've always had the privilege and you've always been afforded that individuality, other people asking for that opportunity feels like a personal attack.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, shit, I can't tell you how many tables that I've just had to step away from because I've said, like, up front, hey, I would prefer if we didn't play in this type of way, or I would, hey, can we not try to do erotic role play at the first session?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, if you're not going to be mature about it, I'm like, no, I'm being mature and telling you up front what my expectations are as a rape survivor. So like literally shut the fuck up. But yeah, no, I mean, that's just,
and that's
but that's just
me. To me, I think session zeros, I think even like, in this age of like, we're not even post-pandemic, like we're actively getting variants. So like, I don't like to say post-pandemic, but in this age of a lot of us we don't get to play in person together. I think it's super important to like have a fucking Google form and like, hey, what am I comfortable with from 0 to 10, 0 being not at all, 10 being super comfortable? Like, am I comfortable with erotic scenes? Should it be fade to black? Should it be? And like, to me, I always, when I'm GMing and I'm playing, I would always prefer fade to black on erotic scenes. Cause number one, like, I am an adult and I am mature and I'm a whole ass monster fucker. I'll admit it, but it's not fun for everybody else at the table to have to sit and like experience that scene unless it's like the scene from Rent. And we all know which one I'm talking about on the stage play, like if everybody's not involved, it's not as fun.
Oh man. Oh wait, I think Rent was actually the last thing I saw on stage before the panties. So
so you know exactly the scene that I'm talking about. And it's and everybody on stage was having a great time.
I'm here for it. Yeah, absolutely. Hell yeah.
And like, and I think that's something that people need to be cognizant of is like, like this is a game and we're here to have fun. And like, it's cute and kitschy and funny and a little bit sexy to like have a little bit of steam, but like, I don't need to have a whole ass fan fiction played out in front of me. Like, that's why I have an archive of our own account. I can just go and read that when I'm ready.
Listen, I am just getting into like understanding Omegaverse and
God.
So actually, Visigoths versus Molgoths, going back to it because I will tell you more about this game because it's amazing. It is touted as a tabletop role-playing game and dating simulator. So
I'm in.
Yeah. So and like the creator Lucian Khan like is the queerest, like gay, like just an icon of everything that's good about Gen X. So yeah, Lucian Khan like made this as a love letter to the to 90s Mongoth subculture, while also making it so that every NPC, 80% of NPCs in this game are romanceable. And as the GM, that means I have to be part of romancing every single player if they decide to go down that route.
Right. And because they could be Aero.
They could be Aero, yeah. And there are some NPCs that are Aero. There are some NPCs that are like, that are in committed relationships and just not open, but yeah, no, but the first time I played it, I had one character that like wanted to, like in the full table of 7 people, wanted to like role play with me, like making out. And I was like, can we just fade to black? Like we discussed this beforehand, like that I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. And there's this whole thing of like, you can just say, and we made out, like, and then boom,
right.
Like, like I don't, like like no matter how good of a role player you are, listening to somebody describe what's going on while they're making out gets a little bit cringe when you're just sitting here waiting to play. Like, it's like, okay, like, I'm glad you're having fun, but like, I'm a little, and like, I'm not a prude by any stretch of the imagination. No. Like, I'm here to talk about these things. I'm here to have open conversations about these things. I have even, been the person, my formal address is mistress and madam for a reason. But like, and I've, been the person to, engage in certain types of play with somebody because I knew I could be safe for them. I don't have any interest in them in that way, but also like, I have an intrinsic understanding of how uncomfortable that can be for people, regardless of the degree to which you're exploring sexuality. Sexuality can get very uncomfortable.
Right. Just because you as a player are consenting in this moment to participate in this doesn't mean that everybody else at the table is consenting to participate. And I think I think it was a newer player too. Yeah. They were a newer, role player. So like, fine, just slap them on the hand and be like, don't do it again. But yeah, I guess going back to like the neurodivergence conversation too, it's like, oh my God. How do you, I guess like the question I have for everybody, because like we're at a point where everyone's forced to like do 60 million things in order to survive. Like how the fuck do we do it? I don't know how I do it.
When somebody figures it out, please let me know. Like I'm still trying to find the balance. I'm starting to get booked a lot more in film, working as like a costume designer and stuff like that.
Amazing.
Thanks. But like also that means like I have, less time to pre-record my podcast episodes and have a backlog to pull from. So I'm like trying to scramble and also like, because my podcast isn't, a set group of people, it's me and a revolving door of guests doing different topics. Like I have to, find those people, have those conversations, and, we have to schedule all those people to have those conversations. And again, in a world where everybody's doing 50 million things, how do you do that?
It got to a point this year where I have to now keep like 3 different calendars, which is so sad. But like I have like my Google Calendar for like my day job, and then I have like my iCalendar for like TTRPGs, and now and then I also have to like cross that calendar over with the calendar I keep with my husband, and I'm just like,
and then you have to cross all of those calendars over so you make sure you don't miss something, and then you triple book yourself, like,
which I've done.
Oh yeah. Like as somebody who works 50-11 jobs and is polyamorous, like scheduling is a
same hat. God, same hat.
How do you do that? How do you do that?
Sometimes being a Virgo is great, but it's also hell. So
listen, I'm a Gemini sun, a Leo moon, and a Virgo rising.
That is almost my husband is a Libra moon, and it's the only difference in that. That's amazing.
Incredible. See, listen, all the best people are Geminis.
I mean, all the best people are mutable signs.
True. Like also like, yeah, like it's that thing of like, and I feel like I've been doing it my whole life, is like desperately seeking balance and not really able to like fully enjoy wins and things like that. There's this whole thing of like, when you're desperately seeking balance and you're trying to, you're succeeding in some things, but you feel like you have this perceived failure in other areas. You end up having this perceived failure because it didn't go exactly the way you wanted, or you had to cancel it altogether because you triple booked yourself, and so on and so forth. And it's so hard because you don't fully enjoy your successes because you feel like they came at the cost of something else. And then also like having that portion of it where like you have to communicate. Like I had to have a conversation. There was like a communication breakdown, and a lot of it was on me. Like I've been going through a lot, both professionally and personally. and dealing with my most recent sexual assault and having to kind of wrap my mind around that, and having to kind of unpack all of the bullshit that society puts on me as somebody who knows all of these things, who advocates for myself and other victims, still going through all of that self-blame in my own head, regardless of knowing it. Like, people try to say that knowing is half the battle. Really, it's only a quarter of it, because even if I know a thing, it doesn't mean that I've internalized it, and it doesn't mean that the conditioning that I've been through isn't still a thing.
Oh my God, that is like the struggle I've been going through all year, is like, yeah. Also, thank you for sharing and being comfortable enough with sharing that. I'm so sorry that happened to you, and I wish you the best in your recovery, sincerely, because been there, the fucking worst.
Yeah.
But also, like, yeah, I mean, this year, fuck it. I've been talking about it publicly lately. This year, I had spent a weekend in the hospital for a suicide attempt. And it was the first time that I ever got to that point. And it sucked. It was the fucking worst.
Yeah.
And, because of a bunch of, conflicting factors, but like, it just didn't feel worth it anymore. But luckily, like, luckily, I don't even know how to come back from this.
No, you're fine. And like, here's the thing is, like, I'm somebody who has suffered with, and probably will always suffer with, suicidal ideation. Like, it is a part of the makeup of who I am and how my brain works. And, I was just having this conversation with a friend literally last night, where it's this thing of like, we know we're supposed to share, and we know that we're supposed to, lean on our support system. But how do we do that when sharing those things with them? They, number one, fundamentally don't understand how the brain works. And then number two, it becomes us comforting them and unpacking our shit, when really what we need is comfort for ourselves.
Oh. I mean, yes, holy shit. Like that's what I was going through this year, was like, just like I was part of a friend group that was just like trauma dumping every single day. And like, it was contained because we couldn't see each other in person and like have like good chill vibes. It was just like, man, my life is ruined. This sucks. And like, some people did genuinely go through like some really, really terrible shit, but there was never any room to like genuinely comfort or like be there for someone the way they needed. It was always, oh, that sucks. I'm sorry you're going, like, it would be like paragraphs of trauma dumping, and then that's it. And like, no real, what the fuck do you do? None of us are trained therapists. Like, if I'm sorry, like, at some point there's self-care that you need to say, like, I'm so sorry you're going through this, but I am not equipped for this.
Yeah.
I am not a licensed professional. Please.
And that has to be okay. We have to be okay with people asserting boundaries for their own protection, because as much as I want to be able to be there for everybody anytime they need anything, I cannot. I will end up killing myself, because like, I'm still going through my own stuff, and then I'm feeling like I'm failing you because I can't be there for you. And that's not fair. That's not fair to you. That's not fair to me. That's not fair, period. But I also get why it's hard, because, you have to do this when you're in therapy, when you're seeing a licensed professional, you have to do this dance of like, how much can I tell this person without getting sent to a grippy sock vacation? Like,
right.
And like, if
grippy socks are great though.
but I
know what you mean.
But also, like, there's a marked difference in the way that experience works when you're sent there and when you go there electively. And like, when you have to come to yourself and have this moment of like, okay, the things that I've been doing, the coping mechanisms that I've been employing, the, support system I've been using have not been enough for me. I need new tools, and I have to get away from all of this. Maybe I do need to do this, but because mental health is so heavily stigmatized, especially when you have to get institutionalized help, just because somebody needs to be removed from something for a while, it doesn't mean they're fucking insane. It doesn't mean, like all of these words like crazy, insane, and people throwing around bipolar and schizo, like stop.
Please
stop, because these are real things that people experience. I am one of them. And there will be, even within my own family, I have to explain sometimes, like they'll make an offhand comment of like, oh, that's a lot like bipolar. And I'm like, no, it's not. That's not how that works. Like, that's not how any of this works. And wow, this has been a crazy roller coaster, right? But I think these are all important things, and all of our life also informs our work and our gaming and all of that stuff. And I thank you for trusting me and sharing with me and creating this space where we can talk about these things.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, again, it's just, I think I'm fine. Like, not just me, but like, I think folks in general are tired of hiding it. And like, because we've been forced to do everything like digitally now and like almost, suffer through something big together, like we are fortunately able to start breaking down barriers regarding conversations with mental health and neurodivergence and, existing as an LGBTQ plus person or, the struggles of BIPOC, individuals. Like, luckily we are at this point where finally we can start talking about it and like start, I don't want to say weaponizing it, but like feeling empowered to do it safely. Yeah. But it is up to people to like put up barriers to protect the people to be able to say, like, I know safe space has been, stigmatized, but it is still like a great phrase to indicate like, no, you are creating a safe, open space where people can just be themselves and not be judged. So yeah, I feel that.
People also, I think, have to be cognizant, especially allies have to be cognizant, whether you're a straight ally to queer people or a white ally to Black, Indigenous people of color. Like, if you are an ally and you are wanting to be a part and like hold space for these people, you need to listen to these people. And it's not a thing of like, I don't care if you're older, you're an ally, not a member. You need to take what they say and internalize it. This isn't them trying to play something up, play the victim, play the race card, whatever. This is them trusting you and giving you their honest experience. Just like when people correct you on things, they aren't correct. It's not an attack. It's, I trust that you respect me enough that you would want to know the proper address, or you would want to know the proper terminology or how to use it. And I'm so excited to be working with you and moving forward in all of this and to strategize the new content we'll be putting out. Yes. But in true Lex fashion, I have run over, but I do want to say thank you again, Amber, and let us know where we can find you and let us know what to look forward to from you. Absolutely. Folks can find me at twitter.com/the space chamber. Why did I do that? Anytime somebody's like twitter.com, I'm like, who goes online? They use the app, girl. You can find me at the Space Chamber on Twitter and Twitch. And also, I'm doing the TTRPG study hall on my Twitch this Tuesday, where we can all gather as neurodivergent doofuses and work on our projects together and get stuff done and feel like that little bit of serotonin. And maybe you'll see Lex on one of my streams in the future, because I would love to see them on one of my streams in the future. So yes. I didn't think you'd see me so soon, did you? But I'm back and badder than ever. I'm here with another new member of the Novi team, Soul. So please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Soul. I also go by Morgan. You can find me online pretty much everywhere as Soul's Rolls. I've got a website, Twitter, Twitch. If you type that in pretty much anywhere, you'll end up on my page. I'm a former public health educator and a longtime gamer. So,
yes. So we are super excited to have you join our team. And I believe you also do a good amount with Play Nerd Allies as well. Is that correct?
I've been working with Play Nerd Allies for several months now, helping them on the back end. I don't really show up in any of their streams, but I'm in their Discord and helping out behind the scenes pretty much everywhere there.
Good. That's awesome. So like, what is it that made you passionate about kind of like the stuff that's in line with our values? Like what made you go, we need more of this. I need to be more involved in this.
Well, I've always been an outsider myself. I am arguably cis, het, and white, but that's up for debate on a lot of those categories there.
I was about to say, what's the arguably?
Well, it's really on just how you want to define all those terms is where I'll agree with them or not, depending on that. But I'm autistic. I'm very, very autistic. I've struggled with it my entire life. I had a late diagnosis in my 30s, right around the same time I went to college. Actually, I went through therapy there and got my adult autistic diagnosis. And something I've always pushed for is breaking down those barriers. I've always been on the outside of groups, and I'm not really a big fan of that. I don't like putting other people there, and I don't like any system that keeps people outside. I've had a lot of bad situations in my life. I've been homeless twice, a couple other things there. So I always look to bring more people in rather than push them away or support any systems that cause that. So when I saw what Plain Nerd Allies was doing, and when I saw what Novi and Fig are doing, that's definitely something that I want to support. I want these spaces to be much more accepting. I want them to be more accommodating, more understanding, more diverse, and more inclusive. And this is an organization that is doing that actively right now.
In this moment, we are doing it. And I think that's like a huge thing. Like, I have a big part of why I am as passionately an advocate as I am, because I don't think I would ever have not been the way I am had I not experienced my trauma and had not experienced the things that I experienced. But I don't think I would have I don't think I would do it quite as fervently as I do today without having experienced it firsthand. Like, I know what it is to not feel like you have a safe space at home or at school. So you retreat into comic books or gaming or going online and like being who you want to be online. And, I was always the girl fighter when I played fighter video games, but like, I know firsthand what it is to experience those things. And I also believe it when other people tell me their experiences.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you kind of have to.
Right? Like, you think, but like a huge part of like what it is to, a huge part of what it is to come out as somebody who's neurodivergent and talk about what it is that we experience in our own head is people being like, you're just lazy. You just need to try harder. Really, you just need to write a list and then cross things off. Like, girl, that's not how any of that works. And like when we have, queer people talking about the discrimination that they face, Black people talking about their realities. Right. We have, white people, we have straight people, we have abled people talking about, well, I don't see that, so it clearly isn't real. I haven't experienced it, so clearly it isn't real.
That's not how that
works. You're not gay, white, you're not gay, Black, or disabled, so of course you haven't experienced it.
Right.
Like,
never mind the fact that the way that we've organized society is the people that are experiencing those traumas are deliberately deprioritized for attention. We shuffle them off so that it isn't seen. That's how we've built society. That's why you don't see it. Oh, I don't see it. Yeah, that's part of the problem. That's why we have these issues. That's
quite literally why there's a bad side of the neighborhood.
Yep, wrong side of the tracks.
Girl, like, that's literally the point. And and I think it is super important that there's intersectionality in all things, and like I was talking about it earlier. Sorry, I got a weird notification. But I was talking about it earlier, how like we have to have allies. Like, things don't get done without allies, but it's important for allies to know when to use their voice and when to amplify ours. And I think it's super dope that you literally are joining in an ambulatory capacity. Like, what is it that like drives you? What is it that you're trying now? How are we doing?
We're doing a little bit better.
Okay.
Awesome.
So what is it that keeps you coming back and keeps you doing the work in the face of the adversity that we face? Like, what keeps you saying, no, this is worth it? And then
So, yeah, I'm really stubborn. Before this, I was a telephone-based health coach. I did that for 2 years over the entire pandemic when it was really bad. I was coaching individuals in the state of Georgia, predominantly teachers, and that burned me out pretty quick because those were not good conversations, generally speaking. But after I took some time off, I knew that I was going to come back and help with health coaching and wellness within the TTRPG community specifically. I can't leave it alone. I can't let shit slide. I just never have been able to. Yeah. I always want to make the world better. And, point of fact is adult sufferers of autism generally don't make it past their 40s. So I want to make as much of an impact as I can while I'm here. And that's really, really highly in my mind. I've only got a limited amount of time anyways, more so because of comorbidities. So I want to make those moments count. I want to leave the world better than I found it. And that's going to require work. It's going to require putting myself in uncomfortable positions. That's one of those things that's just part of the cost benefit analysis. I might never see the really big payoff, but that's fine. Just knowing that I'm pushing and going further, that is important to me. And yeah, I really want to make a difference in the world. And so I just have to do the work, and that some of the work is not fun.
Yeah. And like, that's something that we don't talk about enough. Like, people always want to be like, oh, heal, oh, do this, oh, do that. Like, but like a big part of change and healing is being uncomfortable.
Oh yeah.
Like, definitely. If you want to see any kind of significant change, any kind of significant development, not only in yourself, but in your community, like, it's going to get uncomfortable. You're going to be faced with realities that you didn't know were real. You're going to have to deal with the fact that, like, your worldview is not the only true thing.
Another thing is, a lot of times people get into, I'm going to put air quotes around this, allyship, out of I don't want to say performative, but there's definitely an aspect of like, oh, this is going to be glamorous and I'm going to be surrounded by all these wonderful people and we're going to be doing these great things and saving the world. A lot of the work isn't glamorous. A lot of it is tedious. A lot of it is, paperwork. A lot of it is having shitty conversations with shitty people. And, I know the reality of that. And I think that it's great that we have a lot of people that are wanting to do the work, but reminding them that it is work at the end of the day. It is something that is not necessarily glamorous or glorious. It's something that is going to take time. It's going to take effort. Like you said, it's a lot of it you're going to spend uncomfortable. But the more we start really confronting that, making that an honest part of the conversation, the better off everyone is going to be. Too many people come into it and they don't see the immediate results. They get discouraged, and they get frustrated, they get upset, or they get confronted with an uncomfortable truth about themselves and they quit. Just have to keep in mind and keep a community consciousness that is what this looks like, to work through it.
It goes back to what I was talking with Ace about just before this, of like, you don't get to, like, when someone of the community that you're supposed to be allied or advocating for, when somebody from that community is calling you on a misstep, you don't then get to make it about us making you feel better. Like, you say, oh shit, I'm sorry, move on. Like,
here's how I'm going to fix it, and here's the plan for the future.
Right. And there are and that's just the example I used with Ace is just one example. I have countless examples. I'm sure Ace has countless examples, like, of people who like want to be an ally, but then make a misstep and then make it our position to make them feel better about that. And it's like, no, like, I'm letting you know so that you can be a better ally. I'm trying to help you out. Your feelings about how you still have some ingrained stuff to work out is not my responsibility. Like, that's yours. That's your ingrained homophobia. That's your ingrained racism. That's your ingrained, whatever it is, ableism,
that's what I've seen recently. So within the autistic community, there is a very big push for, as always, nothing about us without us. And there are so many organizations within autism that center the problem.
Autism speaks.
Yeah.
Sorry. Maybe I should hydrate more.
Right. There's so much that goes back on the real sufferers of autism are the parents of these poor children. And that is so infuriating, because autistic children grow up to be autistic adults. They're ideally, hopefully.
Right. Ideally.
And the conversation never really talks about, well, what about these autistic adults that have been made to feel like a burden to their parents and society? That's an interesting trauma. That's another one of those cases of like the autistic individuals are speaking to the community and saying, hey, here's a problem. And the community is saying, oh, but you being upset really hurts my feelings. And I can't handle that. Could you not? It's like, please just meet me somewhere in the middle.
Right. Like it's that thing of like, oh, well, you need to be grateful to your parents because they could have just, put you in a facility or whatever. And it's like, girl, I should be thankful for doing the bare minimum.
Right.
Like, is that what you're telling me right now? I should be thankful for table scraps.
No, we don't play that game.
No, like it's no. Like there's not another word for it. Just no. Like that's not how any of this works, because guess what? Autistic people are full human beings.
Absolutely.
And they have their own experience, and they don't have to be thankful that their parent didn't put them into an institution and their parent accepted the burden of having an autistic child. Like this child who is ideally going to grow up into an adult, this person has to navigate a world that is intrinsically opposite of them.
Right.
Like, you don't think that they are having a hard time, that they are experiencing the burden? And it's not even the burden of autism to me. Right. It's the burden of living in the society that we live in, because it's like, it's not the same thing as ADHD, but even with ADHD, like that's what I can speak to. There's some overlap there. There's definitely some comorbidities.
They're seeing more and more that they might be very, very related. So that's some interesting research that's going on. That's cool stuff.
Yeah, but like similarly, like the world does not function the way my brain functions. Like, like capitalism is not set up for me, baby.
Not a bit.
And like that's the thing is like, and like with autism, like you have these really like a lot of the time frank, honest, blunt, like that's how you think, that no, that's not right, that's not what I'm saying, that's blah blah blah, like whatever the interaction is. And people are so used to niceness and like I have a hard on for talking about the difference between genuine kindness and niceness. Yeah. Niceness is performance. Niceness is me placating to a white man so he doesn't hate crime me. Like, kindness is me telling you up front, like, hey, like, not cool with the way you said that to me, or hey, not cool with that action, or whatever. And a lot of autistic people having much less, and it's not even like, sometimes it's genuinely missing social cues, but a lot of times it's, especially in autistic adults, it's down to, I don't have the fucking spoons to mask for you right now, like you're being shitty.
You're getting the full blast right now. My therapist, when I was in college and had my adult diagnosis and talked with him, he actually at one point said, I know that you're really struggling with this. I know you're having a lot of hard time with it. But honestly, as a clinical, like, doctor of psychology, I think more people should behave more like you rather than you should behave more like the rest of society. We would probably be further ahead if more people were just absolutely blunt and straightforward and just cut right to the chase. Like you said, with the niceness versus kindness, we're wasting a lot of time and effort on shit that just is performative.
Right. Like, and don't get me wrong, like, honesty without tact is cruelty.
Yes,
like,
thank you. Oh my God.
Yeah, I am not one of those bitches that preaches about preaches about fucking radical honesty. It's a crock. It's a fucking crock of shit, and people use it to be heinous to people, then to hide behind the shield of like, I'm just being honest. No, you're being a fucking dick. Yep. Like, you can be honest with somebody without tearing them apart.
Yeah. A lot of people that are brutally honest are more focused on the brutal part than the honest part. If we're going to actually talk about it, that's what they're caring about.
Yeah, they care about like, oh, I get to be an asshole because they genuinely did do something wrong and I get to tell them they did it wrong. And it's like, if you're excited about the gotcha moment, you're excited about the wrong thing.
The wrong thing. Yeah, that's not a growing, healing mindset at all. You're just going to be swallowing hate your whole life. That's no way to live.
Yeah. And like, to be fair, like not everybody's a healer and like, that's fine. But if you're not a healer, shut your goddamn mouth. Just like, if you're not here to help heal and grow, and that person made a genuine mistake and it wasn't them just being like, listen, if you don't have the energy to be a healer, go punch Nazis. Please just go punch Nazis. Like, I'm not expending effort to heal Nazis. So just go do that. But yeah, like there is this like whole thing of like, you know, if much more of the world behaved in the way that like neurodivergent people do.
Oh yeah.
It would be so much more dope because like I love my ADHD brain. Like, don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's like being a Kryptonian on Krypton. So like I have all of these like this superpower potential, but no access to it. Like, but like in the moments where I get to shine and I get to share the things that I've learned due to my ADHD and not being able to like focus on the thing that I'm supposed to be studying or researching, and instead I've learned 8,000 other new things, like that's super cool. And like I get to have interesting conversations and I get to meet super dope people. And you know, I don't go in for the whole small talk bullshit. Like I'm here to have a deep conversation from jump. Like, let me talk about my latest hyperfixation with you. Like, and it would be so dope. And people wouldn't worry so much about niceness because there would be so much genuine connection already that we would just worry about being kind.
Yeah. You wouldn't have to worry about it. It would just happen naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But that's part of why I really like what we're doing with Novi, with Plain Nerd Allies, and with Fig. We're creating these spaces where that is the norm, where that is the actual circumstance in the case. And that's why I'm on board.
Yeah, I love that. No, yeah, I just, it can get very easy to feel like you're surrounding yourself in an echo chamber and you're just like, oh, I'm just hanging out with people who are like me. But then to like have people like joining, they're like, no, I'm excited because y'all are doing this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, oh, we're really doing it.
Oh shit, it's happening.
It's happening. Like,
yeah, but that's exciting. That's a real rush and a real thrill. And there's a lot of validation in that. And making those changes can really make that work that we were talking about earlier, make it really satisfying to have done it.
Yeah. Like, and that's the hard thing. It's like, especially like, you know, trying to find balance and doing all of those things. If it doesn't feel like we're having the reach, it's like, I am hyper extending myself and doing this, that, and the other thing. But then to have people, you know, comment things and come through and be like, oh, like I like this, you really hit something there, or like, oh, like I had a friend tell me, and this, I did not expect this. It was after an interview that I did with Shay Van Loo about her short film Rent Boy. A friend of mine was like, I was crying after your interview because I have missed talking to other creators and having those safe spaces to talk about the worlds that we've created and the things that we're passionate about. And to hear you have a conversation like that was really moving. And I was like, not an episode that I ever expected to make anybody cry, but like to actually have a reach like that and to be able to touch somebody in that way is just like,
right. Yeah, with the wellness coaching that I do, you know, and the articles that I write, I have a lot of people reach out to me privately and say, you know, that article you wrote 6 months ago, I actually just read it today and it changed my life. It's changed my month. It's changed my year. You know, that's having that impact is, I don't know, if someone hasn't ever experienced that, it's definitely something that is hard to explain.
It's really hard to explain because it is at once so fulfilling, but also so terrifying.
Right.
Like
there's a weight that gets lifted and a different weight gets put on.
Right. Absolutely.
You are lifting people up. Now here, carry the burden of doing that for the rest of your life. Oh no,
right?
My brain.
Oh no, my brain. It's broken. Very that. And like, no, truly, because it definitely is genuinely like at the like anytime I've shared about, you know, my sexual assault or my mental health issues, my struggle with suicidal ideation, and people are like, your openness has really helped me to be open. It's like, I am so glad that they know that they're not alone and that I'm a place that they can go to for comfort. But then there's the flip side of that then like I feel and like this is completely on me and not on them. And so dear listener, dear viewer, do not think that this is me saying don't tell me that I've helped you. Don't like, this isn't me saying don't tweet at me, don't reach out to me. But this is just me talking about the reality of like being in a position like this. Like I'm genuinely so excited to be getting more and more people of different backgrounds, but of like minds who are excited about the work we're doing and want to do even better work with us. Like, you know, this started as a group of friends having a podcast and playing D&D, and it has evolved into 3 distinct projects, and
at least
like and just this whole community, and feel free to join the community over on Discord, dear listener and watchers, and like find your people. Like it's a really good feeling to be in this community and to be working with these people, even, you know, when old tendencies still turn their head, because, you know, we've lived in a capitalist society and an ableist society for as long as we have. And so I still have issues communicating my needs and my shortcomings, but we're working on that. And it can be an open dialogue rather than, oh, you're in trouble because you didn't do this thing, you know?
There's a quote that I read once and I lost it almost immediately afterwards, so I haven't been able to find it. But roughly paraphrased, it says that there is no such thing as a mentally and emotionally well human being on Earth, because we don't live in a society that creates those types of people. Everyone around you is traumatized by the society that we're in. And understanding that, you know, not only are you carrying those traumas, but also that everyone around you is as well, that can bring you a lot of compassion, a lot of patience for those missteps, like you were talking about. You know, we live in a society that doesn't train us to be kind to people. It doesn't train us to be compassionate. It doesn't train us to be generous or giving or understanding. Yeah. It teaches us to be exploitative, to be abusive, and to be ableist and shitty human beings, because that's the society we're in. It's a lot of work to get out of that. But understanding that that's the situation, it takes a lot of the sting out of it for me. You know, when I do make those mistakes, because I do as well.
Yeah.
You know, I understand that it's not a personal failing. It's a personal responsibility to fix it, but it's not a personal failing.
Yeah.
You know, I've been raised in a shitty society. I'm going to have some shitty behaviors and actions and thoughts. Yeah. The only thing I can do is spend the rest of my life working to fix that. And it's a job. It's a job.
100%. Well, here is to doing a great job and to furthering what we do for ourselves, our communities, and the world as a whole. Thank you so much for joining me, Soul.
Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
It was so good to speak with you. Please let everyone know where we can find you again in the future. Sure.
You can find me everywhere online as Souls Rolls. That's SOLSROLES. You can find me on Twitter, on Twitch. I have a website, soulsrolls.com, YouTube, all of it. Anytime that you find those words in combination, pretty much guaranteed it's me.
Thank you guys for joining us and being a part of the conversation. You can find me on my podcast, Lex Talk About It. You can also find me on Twitter under Lex Stop Talking. And please let me know. There's also, I always forget to mention this. There is a fun little thing on our website, novistudio.io. If you go to the Lex Talk About It section, you can submit topics and you can submit yourself as a guest. And I look at those and I I definitely am looking for guests. So please, if you have something that you would love to hear me talk about, tweet me about it, go to our website, tell me about it. And if you want to come talk to me on the podcast, submit yourself, girl. Like, let's do this. Let's have a conversation.